Welcome back to Rising. Niall, what's in your notes today?
I'm glad you asked, Robbie. Today, I want to pay tribute of a kind to Zohran Mamdani, to his success in winning election as mayor of New York City, to the thousands of New Yorkers who volunteered for him, and the more than 1 million people who voted for him. They all beat the odds in their own way. It's worth reminding ourselves just how improbable Mamdani's rise appeared 1 year ago. Back then, he was a virtual unknown, a young Democratic Socialist state assemblyman. When his campaign began, he was at 1% in the polls. That was among Democrats. And in the end, he beat Andrew Cuomo twice. Cuomo, a former governor, the son of a former governor, the favourite of the Democratic Party's centrist Clintonite faction, and the favourite of some of New York's most powerful business interests. Mamdani first beat him in the primary in June, and he beat him again on Tuesday. And that's good, because in beating Cuomo, he beat back those powerful interests and beat back the well-funded politics of fear. Look at this chart from Open Secrets, an organisation that traces money in politics. That orange line you see there shows the money given to outside groups either to help Cuomo or to stop Mamdani. The green line, way below it, is the money given to help Mamdani or to stop Cuomo. The difference there speaks for itself. Mamdani beat back some disgraceful media coverage too, coverage that was often hysterical, fear-mongering, or blatantly bigoted against a Uganda-born Muslim. Now, believe me, I know there are many members of our audience who don't share Zohran Mamdani's democratic socialist beliefs. But I'd like to think that even some of those who disagree with his ideology might at least have some quiet admiration for his outsider victory. The people beat the power brokers in New York on Tuesday, and that's always a good thing. Here's the man himself underlining that point in his victory speech in Brooklyn.
Thank you to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too.
This democracy is yours too. That's a message we don't hear enough in our politics, and that's another thing about Mamdani's win. It's in part a rebuke to the democratic establishment as well, a rebuke to a party leadership that he cast as too weak, too fearful, and too corporatist, a rebuke to policy positions that are too often driven by the desires of big donors or the fear of offending them. Mamdani's morality, he said elsewhere in his speech, would be guided by a, quote, bold vision, rather than a, quote, list of excuses for what we are too timid to attack. I want to say a couple of words about his vision. It's been cast as scary or subversive by his opponents in politics and in the media. Here, for example, is the New York Post front page on the day after his election. But what is the programme that the Post and Rupert Murdoch are portraying as Soviet-style communism? A promise of free childcare for little kids aged 5 and under, a promise that city buses will be free, a promise to open one city-run grocery store in each of New York's 5 boroughs. And how will it all be paid for, the critics cry? Mamdani has already given his answer many times. It's by nudging up the city's corporate tax rate so it's on a par with neighbouring New Jersey, and by adding just 2% to the income tax rate of people earning $1 million or more. Only in America, where Democrats as well as Republicans often sing from the billionaire's song sheet, would offering free childcare for all, or asking the wealthy to pay 2% more tax, be seen as dangerously radical. But that's the point about Mamdani's candidacy. It was unafraid, and courage, just like cowardice, is contagious. That's why billionaires try to nip it in the bud. And it's why Zohran's victory speech has gone viral too. because it felt good to see someone show some guts for once, to stand up to Trump and to stand up for this nation's greatest city, a city that I, like many immigrants, first called home here in America, and to do it all like this.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
Or to do it like this.
This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Mamdani's win was so emotional for so many because it offered hope. We haven't had a lot of that recently. We need more of it. And on Tuesday, we felt it stir one more time. Turn the volume up, indeed.
Well, I don't want to yuck your yum, Niall, and I'm happy for you. And look, I'll give him a chance, just like I would anyone else. He is clearly a talented political figure. He is, and he kicked the Democratic establishment in the face, and they deserved it. The establishment put up no reasonable alternative to Mamdani. Right. So this is not. I don't have, my hair is not on fire. I'm not screaming that it's come to this. I think some of his idealism will run into will face practical difficulties in cajoling so many elements of this city into working with him. And it is probably likely his governance will not be any further left than Bill de Blasio's was. Is that Soviet-style communism? Probably not. I won't use that rhetorical excess. I did, it's not that I'm so against him, but I do, I'm watching the victory fanfare there, and AOC's there, and she's on her high horse, and Lena Khan is going to be on the transition team, whom I despise, and then Hassan Piker is there talking about how the Soviet Union should have won, and I'm like, okay, well, now we're getting into some real radicalism, and I just don't like to see Hassan Piker happy about anything, but whatever, it's not my night, it's yours. So.
Well, the Hassan Piker Soviet Union thing, I wouldn't share that view, but I do think, AOC, naturally enough, celebrating a campaign that she herself supported. There was that big rally about a week or so shortly before early voting began, with AOC and Bernie Sanders and Mamdani. And I just think that the fact that there was so much money shoveled in against him, so much I regard sort of ludicrous media coverage. It's 3 million people are about to flee New York the moment he wins, and all that rubbish. So the fact that he was able to do that, and the fact, honestly, that Andrew Cuomo ran at times a very ugly campaign, I thought, especially in the final days of that campaign, sort of giving a nod and a wink to some of the awful stuff that was said in relation to sort of 9/11 and somehow linking Mamdani to that purely on the basis of his faith.
Oh, in addition to that, I was offended by the way Cuomo and his backers treated Curtis Sliwa, frankly, because you're not entitled. You can make a pitch to those voters. They didn't really do that. It was more like, no, you don't want Mamdani, so you're obligated to vote for me rather than Curtis Sliwa. A vote for Sliwa is a vote for Mamdani. I just reject that kind of logic entirely. Make a pitch for his voters then. Didn't do that. It was more an entitlement that, well, no, I'm the legitimate opposition. Well, you're not. You lost your party's primary, dude. That's the Republican candidate. Exactly. Why shouldn't you get out and support him? Why does he have to get out to support you? It doesn't make any sense. And then you could, if you put their votes together, Mamdani, he got cleared 50%. He just barely, but he did. So it's stupid.
Who knew that we could find common ground on Zohran Mamdani? I find the pressure for Sliwa to get out ridiculous. He's the Republican Party nominee. Why did he get out? I mean,
Cuomo forced Eric Adams from the race too. It's like, what, everybody has to bow and scrape to you, my friend? I don't think so.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous indeed. All right, Trump ordering the Pentagon to drop plans of action after allegations of Christian persecution in Nigeria. Stay with us.